Okay, hey guys, so today I'm going to end up using the Keda Wood Dye Liquid. This is a solvent-based dye that mixes with lacquer thinner, alcohol, denatured alcohol, um, methyl ethyl ketones, acetone, all kinds of stuff. But today I'm going to be using lacquer thinner because that's actually what I have the most of. And I'm going to be trying to make a couple of videos with this, so hopefully I have enough that I can end up getting through some of this stuff. So I'm going to be making a 4-ounce formula. This video is going to be about the black coal black dye. I actually have a piece of maple and a piece of oak. All I did was sand this out with 180 grit sandpaper. My final sand, I did do like a progressive sand with a 120 down to 150 and into a 180. I also used a specific type of sandpaper, which is the Hermes. It's a wood sandpaper, specific for wood itself. So that's what the prep was on this piece. I haven't done anything else to it. So let's get into this. I'm going to end up making a 4-ounce batch. So I'm going to try to pour 4 ounces lacquer thinner. Again, like I said, you can end up using denatured alcohol, acetone, anything that's not an oil base. So this is a true solvent-based dye product. It will work with water. It also mixes with lacquers. I also made a video mixing it with true oil, but anyway, so this calls for a half a teaspoon in 6 to 8 ounces, but I'm actually just going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon. Actually, I think I'm just going to go with a 1/8 teaspoon. I'm just going to do 1/8. I know that my spoons they don't have the increments of measure on there anymore, but this one's the half, this is the 1/4, this is the 1/8. So I am going with a 1/8 teaspoon. Oh, I hope this is showing up here. Move a little closer here. 1/8 teaspoon. I'm gonna mix this in. Now, also with dyes, if you just let them sit a little bit after you mix them up, there's a lot of things that go into the components of some good high quality wood dye, and you're going to want to let it just sit for a little bit, just to let all the components of the dye get adapted to the base that it's been mixed into, and let all the components end up opening up. So that's what I'm going to do. You know, I know, I have a little bit of a leak here. Sorry about that. Oh yeah. Well, that'll probably blend in. So I guess maybe I'm not gonna let it sit a little bit. I'm just gonna get right into it. Boy, that's strange, because usually these jars hold very well. It must have been that I just did not have it tight enough before shaking the bejesus out of this. So plans change. I'm gonna get right into it. I'm also going to show you a little trick on how to get something like that. I'm just going to go a little heavier in this area. And again, this is just with the 1/8 teaspoon in the 4 ounces. So this is probably going to be a little bit lighter. If it gets too bad, you know, maybe I'll add a little bit more, but this stuff is very strong. And, you know, with dyes, you kind of want it to end up having the grain showing through. But anyways, I cut up some boards here. That is the maple and the oak. So I'm just going a little heavier in that area where I ended up having that drip. That should blend right in. This is just a regular maple, standard North American maple. It's not like a curly maple or quilt or anything. It's just a standard plain maple. Now if you let this just set a little bit longer, this is going to actually concentrate a little bit more, so this will be a little darker. And another thing you could end up doing is, if you wanted it to go really dark, you could end up just taking your dye concentrate and putting, you know, just a drop or two right onto the cloth that you have with this mixed up solution, and then apply it directly right onto this wood again. But with the black, I'm not going to do that in this video because it's going to go very dark, and then we're not going to be able to see any of the grain or anything like that. Let me do that with a different color, a lighter color, just to show you guys what I'm talking about. Maybe I'll do it with the red. Now this is a veneer. I do have this on an MDF core, and it was just glued to the MDF core, laid out. So you can see that this is just, and this is actually getting pretty dark already, with just the 1/8 teaspoon. But let's get it onto the oak as well. So hopefully this ends up showing two types of wood. Ones that are most often used, I guess you could say, in America, in the United States. Back, and as you can see, this is dried out now. I'm just going to kind of burnish this up a little. I'm just taking a paper cloth. Now you could end up using, you know, a Scotch-Brite pad or something like that over the top of this if you want. I just like doing this. First of all, it's just easier to do. I don't see a whole lot more benefit from using the Scotch-Brite pad. Now, unless you want to make this a darker area, or you know, this is too dark for you, you know, then you can end up taking like the Scotch-Brite pad and, you know, going over a little bit to try to lighten some of it up. But otherwise, I don't see a very big significant difference. I apologize too for this background. It's gonna be black on black here, but you know, it's just, hopefully this is gonna show up pretty well. So this is on the oak. Again, this is just 1/8 teaspoon in the 4 ounces using this Keda Dye liquid dye. This stuff is very strong. It's very color potent, and so I'm gonna spray this up now. I mean, I could put a second coat on here. I don't know if that's what you guys want to see, but I think for the purpose of this video, I'm just gonna end up, you know, just doing it with the 1/8 teaspoon, so that way you guys can just see, hey, just taking 1/8 teaspoon to 4 ounces of the lacquer thinner, what it actually ends up looking like and turning out. So let's just give that a whirl. I'm just going to shoot a little bit of acrylic on here. Okay, so anyways, here we go. I just don't want this to rebound too bad onto the camera. And again, this is just the 1/8 teaspoon. can always add a little bit more of the dye if you want it to go a little bit darker. But you know what? A lot of times I end up going darker just because of the purposes of the camera. Most of the time I don't like really going that dark. I like it when it's like this, when it's more transparent and you can see more of the grain. And you can see that this is I mean, it's not a fancy maple or nothing, but it has a lot of, you know, figuring in there. Like this was a knot right here, and I'm sure that's not going to probably show up near as good as what, you know, what it really looks like. But you know, maybe after I get a couple top coats on here, it'll end up showing up a little bit better. You know, but the same thing with this oak. If you end up going a little heavier, sometimes it can end up reducing some of that 3D imaging that you can end up seeing the depth of the wood. And I know this camera's probably not going to show it up very well. I don't have very good light. It's getting late in the day, and I got all these artificial lights going on. But maybe I'll just finish this up, and I'll try to do a follow-up with, you know, with these indoors, and maybe hopefully we can get some in the outdoors. But I'm just gonna give these a couple coats. You know, I'll probably do about 3 coats. That's kind of my standard, is 3 coats. If it's not being put on like a guitar or something that needs a little more durability, 3 coats is usually pretty good. It also depends upon the spray or the top coat itself. Sometimes you need a little bit more, you know, like a tung oil or Danish oil or something like that. You may need a little bit more to get some deeper effects. Oh, looks like I got a little defect in there, so I will be doing an in-between coat sanding. Oh, thank you. That was my eBay. Got a little sale there, so thank you for that. Anyways, so this is after the first coat of the sealer with a 1/8 teaspoon of the Keda Dye black and 4 ounces of lacquer thinner on oak and on maple. Nothing fancy, just on regular plain woods. So I will be back with this completely sealed up, and probably some in-between coat sanding, and we'll see it when I come back. Alright, so this is the finished results using the Keda Dye solvent-based liquid dyes. This is the coal black. I ended up mixing it into the 4 ounces of solvent lacquer thinner, and this is the results of it. By no means this is not a fancy maple. I mean, it did have some figuring on there. There was a knot, and I do have a board of this, so I'm going to try to do the other colors with the same board so I can kind of show the similar results using the other colors. And I just kind of wanted to give this quick little video demonstration. Anyways, this was with the 1/8 teaspoon. Again, that's going to end up at this ratio. It's going to give you a significantly more volume of dye stain that can be made up than the 2 quarts with this 1 ounce bottle of this very powerful solvent-based liquid dye. So I hope that this is coming out fairly decent. I'm trying this in a new angle with a different light source, with the light source being back in to the right of me, so that way hopefully that this ends up giving a little better results of what the actual finish looks like. It's so difficult to get what it really looks like in person versus on film. So this is the North American red oak with the same dye ratio on it. This turned out really nice as well. It's not really showing up near as beautiful as it looks on, you know, in the camera as it does in person, because these sections right here are they look very deep. I don't know how to really explain it. It's a beautiful 3D effect that happens when you're looking at it in person, but on camera it's just not showing up very well whatsoever. But again, this was the same solution that was mixed up with the 4 ounces of lacquer thinner and the 1/8 teaspoon. And I hope that this ends up giving a good demonstration of what this dye looks like on a North American red oak. So thanks you guys for watching. Again, I hope that this shows what the solvent-based liquid dyes from Keda looks like. Well, at least the black. I'm going to try to get some of the other colors in. And thanks you guys for watching, and that's it. Thank you.